I want to ask you about these two cases, the Remington case and the Alex Jones case, and you can start with whichever one you want to. They were historic in that they were the first time at that level, either a gun company or a liar on mass media was held to account in that way. Tell me how you got to that. How'd you get those successes?
Well, I mean, it all started with the courage of the families that we represented, number one. I mean, they were not content to just let their tragedy go in vain. And so they sought out ways to hold Remington accountable for the sale and distribution of a deadly weapon that took their children and relatives. And the way we did it was we recognized that we had a federal bar to suing gun manufacturers under PLACA, but there were exceptions to sue them under a particular state law. And so in Connecticut, we took advantage of our consumer protection law that makes it unlawful for companies to market products in ways that are immoral, abusive, oppressive. And we claimed that the Remington's marketing of the AR-15 as a weapon of war to underage children was exactly that. And we won at the Connecticut Supreme Court. And as a result of that, Remington folded very quickly and paid every last penny of insurance dollars that they had. With respect to Alex Jones, you know, we knew that we were going to have some challenges, obviously, but we also knew that the lies that he spread about Sandy Hook were so very obvious and so very damaging. And by the time we got to court, we had proven that just like Remington sells its weapons of war for profit, Alex Jones was selling his lies to his audience for profit. And that was very, very compelling before a jury. So, you know, that's how we went about this problem. I mean, the unfortunate thing here is that the court should not be the place where these problems get solved. There should be policy responses at the federal level that have been lacking. And so families like the Sandy Hook families have been forced to go to court to get justice. So
to the extent that you're right, the policy prescriptives are lacking, and there has been some little progress sometimes in the states with red flag laws and background check stuff. Sometimes, I mean, we had some progress at the federal level with guns, but it's all too little. And the problem is accelerating all too fast. Given that the courts are the place that you saw some success, is that replicable?
It is. I mean, there are 50 state statutes around the country that protect consumers in individual states, each of which may have an unlawful marketing carve-out that could allow victims of gun violence to sue gun manufacturers in their state if their weapons were used as a result of unlawful marketing practices. There are also public nuisance laws, which we've seen states and cities taking advantage of. I know that some states and cities have contemplated suing source states for guns. I know in Connecticut, most of our illegal guns are coming from out of state as a result of poor regulation in other states. And so there are creative ways that we can go about trying to save lives by taking these gun manufacturers to court. And, you know, the other way is to actually pressure companies that are involved in the gun industry but may not be gun manufacturers themselves. So I mentioned the Remington settlement. That was insurance money. And part of what we were trying to show is that the cost of insuring companies like this is no longer just something that insurance companies can wave a hand at. This is something that's going to be very, very pricey for them if they continue to backstop these very, very dangerous products.
The cases are very different, obviously, Remington and Alex Jones. On the Alex Jones stuff, the stuff that happened at Fox was reminiscent of that, the idea that they knowingly spread falsehoods and that was profitable to them. Is that replicable? Because lots of people stand behind the First Amendment to say we can say whatever we want to say. And Fox has many times said you shouldn't take some of the things we say to be true. But they knew, there was discovery that indicated that they knew that what they were making money off of telling their viewers was stuff they knew not to be true or didn't believe themselves. In this instance, the courts also ended up playing a role, or at least the settlement did, but the threat of a lawsuit ended up playing a role in the stopping of lies, the increasing of the cost of lying.
It's a historic case. You know, I think of the Alex Jones case. I think of the Dominion case, the upcoming Smartmatic case. I think of the case against Nazis in Charlottesville as all very, very important ways that we can use defamation laws, libel laws, intentional infliction of emotional distress laws, and civil rights laws to drive up the cost of what is really unlawful conduct. It's not speech, it's lies. And as you know, lies have never had any protection under the Constitution. In fact, they're anathema to the First Amendment. And so I think what we saw in the Dominion case is that New York Times versus Sullivan and defamation law continues to be a vital tool in combating this rising threat of disinformation that you've talked so powerfully about.
In either one of these cases, whether it's the guns or the lies, is there something? We don't have federal legislation that protects us all that well on this front. Is there something that a Democratic governor could do to say this stops here?
Sure. I mean, you know, in Connecticut, we've been very, very fortunate to have leadership on this issue. We've have safe storage laws in Connecticut. There are laws under contemplation right now that would limit bulk purchases in Connecticut. And so states around the country have the opportunity under their own laws to make gun ownership more safe, more responsible, and to protect our children. That's really where these laws are going to have to be passed, because although we've seen some incremental progress at the federal level, obviously it's not nearly enough to protect our communities.